so here we are in TNS. Oh, that's great. But the so how is it that you would come up with this kind of talk? So I go, all right, well, what am I going to do? And so last night, or a couple of nights ago, and then last night finally, I sat down and I started flipping through Apple TV because, you know, I was procrastinating and not doing my work. And I was flipping through, and the new Aladdin movie with Will Smith is out. And I was like, I have not seen this film. I want to watch it, but you can't rent it yet, you have to buy it. And I'm like, I'm not spending $17.99 for this movie because I don't even know if it's good. So what did I do? I watched the old Aladdin movie. And it was like, I love that movie. That movie came out when I was in college, and I fell in love with Princess Jasmine, and it was awesome. And so, like, this is me running around my house. I'm not running around the house because you can see through, and so I only do that upstairs. But I was in the kitchen. I'm like fixing foods. I'm like, Paki, one jump, head of the bread line. And I'm like singing all over the place. It was so much fun. And then Robin Williams comes out, Prince Ali, yes it is he. I mean, it was just awesome. And I was into it. And then when Jafar comes out and he gets to reprise the Prince Ali song, and he's like, Prince Ali! And he's just like, oh my gosh, it was awesome. Which then brought me to remember, so the older students here know it, the time that I was with Robin Williams. Now, a lot of you know that I was working in the entertainment industry before I was a priest. And so I was at the premiere of Patch Adams. And Robin's there, and I was talking to the original Patch Adams, the real Patch Adams, and who reprised his role as the real Patch Adams that night, because he's still himself. And as I was talking to him, Robin starts walking. I had always wanted to tell Robin Williams one thing. And that's, I was in high school when the Dead Poets Society came out. And his famous, probably it was one of his greatest films, and it was one of the greatest films that he ever did where he was funny but also tragic. And I wanted to thank him for the film because he taught me how to teach in that. Arguably, morally, he's probably not a great teacher in the movie, but it was a great film nonetheless. And I wanted to thank him for just drawing out a personality. And I was sitting, I'm like watching him walk towards me. And I'm thinking, I'm older, so I'm like thinking Mork from like Mork and Mindy is walking, and I'm thinking of like an Aladdin and all these things that I've watched. Miss Doubtfire. I don't think Good Will Hunting came out yet, so I hadn't. But so this is Patch Adams, and he's walking towards me. He had been sitting in front of me in the theater during the premiere, and it's really funny to watch someone laugh at themselves. Because these actors, I don't know if you know this, but like they do take after take after take, and Robin Williams would just riff and do scenes and scenes, and it was up to the director and the editor to cut it and decide which scene they were going to keep. I don't know if you know this, but Aladdin has 36 hours of Robin Williams doing his thing, and then they cut it down, and the animators were like, we'll just keep drawing this. All right, this is great. So Robin walks up to me, and I thank him. I just said, Robin, I really want to thank you. And I'm just like this, by the way. This is years later. Okay, I meet him. I'm in the seminary at this point, but I still knew people, so I was in this place. And he looks at me. And he's like, and you know, because most people, if they're not Catholic, a lot of times, like I'll walk through campus and people look at me and they're like, there's two things that they think. He's either going to send me to hell. I don't know why everyone thinks I have that power. Sometimes you wish you could, but or there's like a demon somewhere, you know, and I'm like Ghostbusters. Yes, ma'am. What can we do for you? Did it look like a giant Stay-Puft Marshmallow Man? Anyway, so I'm walking towards him, and I'm thinking he's thinking that I'm coming to deliver him, and I just thank him. I said, Robin, look, at the time I think I was a deacon. I introduced myself, and I said, I want to thank you for your role as Mr. Keating. It taught me how to teach, and it taught me how to bring humor into the classroom as well. And it inspired me as a high school student to fall in love with American literature, especially. And he looked at me and he goes, wow, that was one of the greatest compliments anyone's ever given me. And I'm like, yeah, sure. And he goes, did you really like it? I'm like, I just said that I really liked it. But I noticed something about him, and this was something that like it clicked in me. This is why God was like, watch Aladdin, because connection upon connection is made. Is that there was something about Robin. She was hilarious. I would argue that he's one of, if not the most beloved actor in the world during his life. And he had the #1 TV show, Mork and Mindy, when it was out. He got Oscars and more nominations. He could do comedy and animation, and at the same time, in the same year, do one of the most tragic and awesome acting roles ever in a full drama. He could go anywhere and anyone would know him. He was beloved by everybody. And yet it wasn't enough. And poor Robin was really always living in the external. And this is something that struck me, is that he had said that he was starting to become now he struggled with Great Depression and a lot of psychiatric problems as well. But he was having difficulty, he said, I'm not funny anymore. Now we all thought he was hilarious, but he wasn't on the top of his game anymore. And because of that, because he wasn't getting all the roles that he wanted and stuff, he started to atrophy because everything was in the external. And if Robin had only been able to inhabit the internal better, I dare say he'd still be making movies today. And God rest him. I pray for his soul. Because he was a very good man, and he was a very good father in a lot of ways. But this is the thing. If we use the external world as the driving force for everything, what we do is we end up having what we call reactionary living. Like, I'm reacting always to the external world. And the reason I'm talking about this is because college has a lot of external things going on. There's a lot of expectations that we have. Professional expectations in the future, academic expectations today, social expectations, personal expectations, familial expectations, extended familial expectations, cultural expectations, ethnic expectations. I mean, it's just it's great expectations all over the place. And then what happens is that causes us to be stressed and anxious if I'm living in a reactionary world where I'm always reacting to external pressure. So yesterday was the feast day of St. Augustine. Now, St. Augustine arguably is one of the greatest saints ever. St. Augustine, if you don't know about him, he fooled around. St. Augustine, when he was younger, he was very promiscuous. And his famous prayer, Lord, make me chaste, but not yet. And he was, but he was a brilliant thinker, a brilliant philosopher. And St. Augustine eventually goes through this conversion. He goes from the external pressures of the world and all of these things to the internal. And this is what he wrote. And yesterday, I was so moved by this. I even used it in the homily. I was so moved by this that I had to bring it to my prayer and really reflect on it. Because when I was in college, I read this at 19 years old, and it changed my life. Kinda. Like, yeah, it took a long time. But this was the first book that made me think. Okay, and I had read things before. I had read, like, Moby Dick was my favorite book, like, from reading it senior in high school. It was awesome. I loved it. There was all these things. But this was the first work of, like, psychology, philosophy, theology. It's all history, personal memoir. It's all one thing wrapped together. It's still considered one of the greatest works of all time. And he wrote this. Late have I loved you, O beauty ever ancient, ever new. Late have I loved you. You were within me, but I was outside. And it was there that I searched for you. In my unloveliness, I plunged into the lovely things which you created. You were with me, but I was not with you. He was living an external life, but God was found in the internal life. His true self was found in the internal life. He says, created things kept me from you. Yet if they had not been in you, they would not have been at all. You called, you shouted, you broke through my deafness. You flashed, you shone, and you dispelled my blindness. You breathed your fragrance on me. So romantic. I drew in breath, and now I pant for you. I have tasted you. Now I hunger and thirst for more. You touched me, and I burned for your peace. My friends, that's the interior life. And you don't have to be even religious to begin to live the interior life. I know that there's people here who are not Catholic. You might be like, oh, the priest is going to start doing the spiritual thing again. And then I'm going to be like, be gone, Satan! No. It's the interior life. So I want to ask you this question, Simon. I have a couple of questions for you. What do you want from life? Like, what is it you hope for? I remember when I was in 7th grade. Yeah, I was in 7th grade. And then, as I've told some of you this story before, I was in 7th grade, and there was this, I was hanging out with the guys at the pool. All these, 13-year-olds, like 12, 13-year-olds. Yeah. What's up? All utterly self-conscious and wounded, because we had been in junior high, and junior high is just like wound factory, It's terrible, awful. Hey, let's put wicked children all together and let them live in common community and destroy one another's egos. Hey, that's a great idea. And we're going to leave them alone. All right, you do what you want to do. But anyway, we were hanging out at the pool, and there was this girl that was she was nice, but we were kind of mean. And her name was Jenny. And Jenny inevitably, I don't know if she left. She just moved away. And we were like, oh, maybe we were mean to her. And Jenny left, and then Jenny came back a year later. And Jenny looked good. And now we're in 8th grade, and we're like... Jenny walks in, she goes, hey, boys. And she does one of those things at the pool, and we're like, hey, Jenny! Where were you? And she was very gracious and very kind. She was probably 2 years older or something. I don't know how old she was. But she was awesome. And I remember going home and being like... And anyway, I remember going home and being like, how did she change? Other than puberty, how did she change? And I thought she went away, and then all of a sudden I started thinking in my mind, how cool would it be? How awesome would it be if you could go away to a place where you were unknown, and you were leaving your home, you were leaving the place behind that you knew, and you went away and you became awesome. And then you went back home and everyone was like, hey, Jenny. Saying out what would that look like? And no, not hey, Siri. I didn't say that. Stop. It's going to freak out. But then I started thinking about what would it look like if I were to go, if I had an opportunity to go away and become in effect, the best version of myself. And I was discovering myself as a 14-year-old. But the fact is, we're all discovering ourselves at 14, 18, 19, 20, 47, whatever it is. We're going to be discovering ourselves. You're here now. You've come. This is your desert island. And if you think about college like that, if you enter into this experience of college like that, and you say, who do I want to become? Because many times they'll say, I want to be successful. But my question is, do you want to be fulfilled? That's different. There's a lot. Robin Williams was successful. But poor Robin wasn't fulfilled. That he was still searching for something on the outside. So what are you looking for here? And it's going to be this is a great conversation to talk to friends about. What are you looking for? Is it relationship? Friendship? Is it freedom, a newfound freedom, a new definition, an understanding of freedom? Is it taking control of your own time, of your own life? Is it fun? Which is good. Is it heaven? What do you want? And maybe to say, what virtues do you have? Because we all have them. And maybe what virtues am I lacking? Because this is the place where we can do that. But what if you were passionate about something? I often ask this, one of those questions that I love asking at parties in Washington, D.C. Because in D.C. it's all the same kind of thing, isn't it? Maybe you haven't been to parties in Washington, D.C. So I'm going to tell you what parties in D.C. Hi, how are you? Pretend I'm not wearing this for a second. Hi, how are you? James Searby, nice to meet you. Great, what do you do? Why are you here? Are you interesting to me? What can you do for me? Now, that's not actually what goes on, but that's really what people talk about. It's they want to know, how valuable are you? So when I go to a party now, and I walk in like this, and they look and they go. When priests walk into a party, it's kind of like a unicorn at a horse party. Everybody is just look at the unicorn, they're real. And then a couple hours later, why the hell's that unicorn still here? Tell him to leave. So I'll ask people, I go, wow, that's great. No, it's nice to meet you. What are you passionate about? What are you passionate about? Well, are you passionate about foreign policy? No, that's what I do. What are you passionate about? This is my question for you. What are you passionate about? And I bet you many of you will say, I don't know. That's why you're here. To find out what you're passionate about. And you know what's beautiful? All of us are made completely differently. All of us are made differently. Like, we all have different gifts and skills. We all have different faults and weaknesses. And guess what? We all fit together like a giant jigsaw puzzle of awesomeness. And it's cool. It's great. Even our weaknesses, we're the rough edges. Because guess what? Those rough edges fit in with other rough edges and make the jigsaw puzzle even more fun to put together. And so my question for you is, where do you want to go to become an interesting person? Because there's so many people who are boring. There's a lot of muggles in this world. And so this is your opportunity to be able to clarify and define who you are going to become for the rest of your life. Because I promise you, in the next 4 years here, or however many years you have here, you will become the person you will be. All of the decisions that I make, all the decisions that you make now, make us the people that we're going to be. And is it going to be an interior world where I first come to know who I am, how I was created, what, and become, go to the desert island and be awesome? My desert island thing was like, I had like a martial arts instructor, I had Yoda, I had, what else did I have? I had Jenny, there was like a brilliant philosopher, there was like, in other words, I was kind of putting, okay, intellectually, spiritually, emotionally, physically, combatively, because, you know, I had to do that. All those different things, athletically, no. So why? So when I go back, I'm like, hi there. You know, it's that I would be, as a 14-year-old, was thinking, awesome. Well, maybe, who are you going to be, as an 18, 19, 21-year-old, whatever, to be awesome? And it's going to change over time. Things that are good change over time. I'll give you an example. Do you know what happened on July 16th, 1995? Some people are like, I was born! But July 16th, 1995, going once, going twice, Amazon went live on the internet. And Jeff Bezos, on that date, decided that the internet was a pretty cool thing. And that he saw that, you know what, there's some possibility for selling something here. What am I going to sell? How about books? We'll start selling books. And the first book was by Douglas Hofstadter, called Fluid Concepts and Creative Analogies, Computer Models of a Fundamental Mechanism of Thought. That was the first book sold on Amazon. It's like priceless now. 1999, they decided, after they're growing, they said, you know what, we're going to do e-cards and do auctions on Amazon. I remember buying something on an Amazon auction. 2004, they developed their own search engine, and they started basically being a department store. In 2008, things exploded, and they developed the Kindle. And then they developed a whole family of Kindles. And today, they literally sell everything. They are, I think, 45% of international retail is through one company. Now, when Jeff Bezos started Amazon, he had a very different understanding of what it looked like to be successful. Now he's the richest man in the world. Amazon grew and they developed because different people put in input. Well, our life is going to be like that. It's going to grow and develop. But wherever we focus, that's where our energy is going to go. And so what we need is a plan. We need a plan as we're developing these things. We have to clarify the results that we desire in life, or we are going to be reacting to life and not intentionally living life. That's the first thing I want you to remember out of this talk. Clarify your plan. Who do you want to be? If you want to be a scoundrel, there's a couple of things that I could guarantee you to do, that if you do them, you'll become a scoundrel. Now people go, I'm going to do those things, but I'm not going to become a scoundrel. No, yes you will. You will become those things, right? Like if you eat junk food, you will die sooner than the person, well, I don't know. I don't think. But it'll, and sometimes, you know, in life, God intervenes, but the fact is we need a plan, we need a strategy. If we're going to attack life, if we're going to enter into life, if we're going to live it fully, how do you define an extraordinary quality of life? Like sit down with a piece of paper and write it down. What's your definition of an extraordinary life for you? Because it's going to be different than my extraordinary life. And God might intervene. My idea of an extraordinary life in 1995, I assure you, was not what I'm doing today. But now I look back at 1995 and I say, thank you, Jesus. And why didn't I buy stock in Amazon? But the fact is that we need to take life to a whole new level at your age. College is life at a higher pitch. And it's going to be the most amazing thing. How, my friends, will you use this time here at college? And you might say, I only have a year left. It's not too late. Do you want to learn other languages? Do you want to travel and see the world? Do you want to develop some creative gifts? Do you want to be able to learn about things you can't even possibly imagine? Go throw yourself into it. Henry David Thoreau said, most men live lives of quiet desperation and die with the song still in them. Why do they live lives of quiet desperation? Because they don't have a clear and compelling vision for their life. And because it's not clear and it's not compelling, they just react to life. And I can assure you, I did that. I graduated college and I had all these dreams and hopes and goals. And within 6 months, I got home and I turned on the TV and then I went to bed and then I woke up and I made breakfast and I went to work and then I came home and I turned on the TV and I went to bed and I'm like, is this my life? So I went out, it was ridiculous. I went out, I bought this giant canvas. Like, it was like an 8-foot canvas. My roommate probably thought I'd lost my mind. He was crazy, he never stopped snoring. But this guy, if you're listening to this, you're not that crazy, I'm joking. But I sat and I just painted. I was like Jackson Pollocking, even though Jackson Pollock painted on the floor. And I was like, going all around, crazy about why, because I needed to do so. I needed to break out of the rut and be creative. And I quit my job, and I went and I was a bouncer and a bartender and a waiter at a local restaurant until someone called me and they were like, hey, I play golf with the vice president of marketing for Ringling Brothers and Barnum & Bailey Circus. Do you want to run away with the circus? Hell yes! And then I did. And it's like, you do these things and like all this stuff is going to happen, but the fact is that if you don't break out of the rut now, you are going to live a life of quiet desperation, and that song that's inside of you, it will be silenced. Because when you silence the song in someone, you can sell them something. And that's what they want to do. They want to sell you something. So you will sit and be a consumer and not a person. And college is the time to stop being consumers and start being creators. And start being alive. Have that clear and compelling vision of what you want out of life and share it with your friends. And your parents might tell you, you're going to be a doctor. No one ever says that anymore. It's like the insurance industry changed and they're like, go be an entrepreneur, you know? But like, that's the first thing. A clear and compelling vision for your future. Second, and then there's 3 things. The second thing, get the tools you need for results. We need certain tools. We need certain abilities. We need a map, and we need a tribe of mentors. We need people that are going to mentor us through it. What are you passionate about? Find the person who's best at that. I was just told this recently. I'm fascinated, but I really want to meet him. If you're into video games, I'm told that the guy that made Atari works here. That's awesome, I want to meet him. Why? Because the last video game I played was Pac-Man. Or like River Raid or something on Atari. The fact is that like, if you're passionate about it, go meet him. Go sit down and be like, how did you do that? You're passionate about like writing computer programs and stuff? Get out your computer and email Steve Wozniak and ask him, how did you create the personal computer? How did you create the first Mac? Oh, he's very busy. Not too busy, I guarantee you. You are not separated too far from very successful people who are at the top of their field, and if you reach out to them, they will mentor you. Or they will find a mentor for you. I promise you. Get those tools necessary. Because we need those mentors. Luke Skywalker stumbled on Obi-Wan Kenobi, but he went searching for Yoda. And we need to do the same kind of thing, and we need to put ourselves through it. So what are the tools, the skills, the knowledge, the coaches that you need? Sometimes you know what you need, sometimes you don't. That's what a mentor is for. To go find those. Professional mentors, spiritual mentors, emotional mentors, artistic mentors. You can have I have a whole tribe of mentors. I wanted to get in shape last year, and I was like, I'm getting in shape. I was like, that's it. There's a picture of me in the corner, over there. But like, I was like, I'm getting in shape. You know what I did? I called a friend of mine who is a Marine Corps Force Recon sniper. And I'm like, I need a Marine. He's like, what do you need? I'm like, I need you to kick my butt and get me in shape every day. What the hell are you doing? Get up. You gonna do this? Come on. And he did. And like, now I'm in better shape than him. If you're listening, no. No, like, we need that. We need to find people who are top, who are excellent, who are doing the thing we wish we could do, and ask them, what are your tricks and your tips and your habits and your hacks that make you awesome? Watch how they live their life and then copy it. And guess what? They had to go through a lot of crap and all these things in order to get there. Well, you don't have to, because they learned the lessons. So you're going to sit down with them and say, what are the lessons that you learned? Teach me so that I don't have to go make the same mistakes. And it's awesome. Because a lot of times when people fail, they say, Well, I didn't have the resources available to me. I didn't have the money. I didn't have the time. I didn't have the. No, that's a lie. You weren't resourceful enough. Don't worry about the resources you have. Be resourceful. Look out. You can contact everyone in the world on the computer that you hold in your pocket. And if you are resourceful enough, you will meet them. The next thing to do is, in part of those tips and those tricks, let me ask you this weekend, develop a morning ritual. What do you do in the morning? How do you live your morning? Your morning is the best thing in the world. They might say, oh, I'm tired, I stay up late. Fine. Okay, stop. Right? Stay up late. Once in a while you have to have those deep talks with people at night. Absolutely. Absolutely. It's what college is all about. But, if you have a ritual that you live every morning, you look forward to getting up for it. And you will get stuff done. And you will learn in a way you can't imagine. When I wake up in the morning, I pray, and I have my coffee simultaneously. I fuel my soul and my brain with what's needed. Okay? Then I exercise, and then I start to do like work in my house before anybody can bother me, so I can get it done. How do you live your mornings? I did a podcast which will go live tonight at around midnight, and I put together, it's about an hour-long podcast, and it's on how to work optimally. And I use a lot of different books and a lot of different research on neuropsychology and on cognitive behavioral therapy and a lot of common sense. And put together a format, a process in which if you enter into this, I promise you will get more done than you've ever gotten done before. It's transformed my life, and it's very easy to do. Last year, or a year and a half ago, I was blessed to go up to Harvard and be trained in this, and I just loved every minute of it, and I promise you it'll help you. But part of that is having that awesome ritual of the way you live your life. And then finally, the third thing that you can do is unlock what's blocking you. You might have I'm going to define what it is that I want in my life. I'm going to write it all down. It's going to be awesome. I'm going to spend Labor Day weekend, and I really do think you should don't go waste time this weekend, because if you start classes on Tuesday and you have a good plan, it's going to be awesome. And then when you have that really good plan, if you also are like reaching out and finding what tools you need, and you're asking people, ask me. Ask our staff, ask your parents, ask friends, ask everyone you know. What kind of tool? Okay, this is what I want. What do I need to get there? Okay? But what happens is sometimes we get to a place where we're still stuck. And we're stuck because we've come to believe lies. So maybe it's like, no, I could never run that far. I want to be a runner, but I could never run that far. Why? Because someone once told you could never run that far, and that's a lie that they told you. Probably because they were mediocre themselves. What's needed for sustainable success? And what's blocking you? What inner conflict is taking place? It needs to be talked about. What kind of emotions are there? Because when we're not aware of our emotions, then they wreak havoc on our lives. But when we become aware of our emotions, and I'm saying this for you guys too, because a lot of people think like, man, if I can act past my emotions, I'm fine. You're not. You're not. That we all have to face our emotions. We all have to face the fact that we're going to fail at things. But sometimes what's inside of us tells us that we can't, that I'm not capable, that I'm going to be defeated, that I'm going to be frustrated, I'm not good enough, I'm not capable enough. And it seems that every time I take two steps forward, I'm taking one step back. And we get frustrated and we give up on our hopes and dreams. We give up on our plans. We give up on our strategies. Maybe it's somebody else in your life. Maybe it's a naysayer or the inner liar. Maybe it's a saboteur, someone who is jealous of you. Maybe it's a parent or a former teacher who told you that you weren't good enough somehow. Maybe it's your best friend. Maybe it's time to get new friends then. Maybe it's time to turn to your parents and say, I'm going to prove you wrong, and I love you. And I love you, and I love you so much, I'm going to show you how much I love you. I'm going to be successful at this. And I'm going to do awesome things for you. So that you'll be proud of me. Not proud of me because of what I achieved. Proud of me because I worked beyond the lie. And I'll show you it's possible too, because sadly you probably believe the lie too. You might get disowned and kicked out of the house, but it'll be fun. It'll be lovely. But the fact is that when we face those things, the patterns that overwhelm us, then what happens to us is we are free. And a free person can be successful. A free person can be more than successful. They can be fulfilled. And if you need counseling, get it now. I'll help you find a good counselor. If you need spiritual direction, ask me. If you need to be forgiven of something that's like rotting at you, ask. It's all available. You have the bright promise out in front of you. Everything is pure potentiality right now. And you will make mistakes, and there will be doors that are closed to you. And every door that is closed, a window is open, as St. Catherine of No, St. Teresa of Avila said. Every time a door is closed, a window is open. And then Maria von Trapp quoted it in Sound of Music, and that's so I want to ask you these questions, and actually I encourage you to take out your phones and write these down, because I think if you take these this weekend, this would be a really great beginning, and then I will leave you with that. What is an area in your life where you're really happy? What is an area in your life right now that you are really happy? By the way, these are awesome things to talk to your friends about. This takes like party to a whole new level. If you meet someone at a party and go, what area in your life are you really happy in? And they're like, all right, freak. That's cool. You just realize, like, that can't be my friend. Okay. Will you be my friend? In what area of your life are you really happy? And what are you happy about? What makes you happy in that area? What's an area in your life where you're not happy? And why are you unhappy in that area? This requires some reflection, maybe something to bring to prayer. What do you want to be like at the end of this semester? You don't have to set goals for like, when I'm 40. No. What are you going to be like at Christmas break when you go home? What are you going to look like? What knowledge are you going to have? And please don't worry about the grades. Oh, I'm going to give you the biggest secret that I ever learned in my life. Who cares about grades? Do you know why they give you grades? They give you grades because it's how they get funding. We have this many people who have this GPA. Oh, you must be doing your job right. You know who does that too? Factories. Factories go, this is grade A meat. They're good meat. Sell it at a higher quality than this one. This is grade C meat. Sell that to the dog food factory. The fact is that if you go into class going, I want to get good grades, you'll never learn crap. I'm being very specific here. You will never learn anything and you'll waste money. If you go in and say, I want to learn about this. I want to take this knowledge, even if it's something you don't care much about. Like, I am deathly afraid of mathematics. And yet, I go into a math situation, and if I say, you know what, it's going to teach me greater logic and reasoning, which is going to help me argue philosophy. Oh, awesome. That's a compelling reason. I'm going to get into that. If you're passionate about what you're studying, and you study what's interesting to you, and even the stuff that's not interesting, you find the opportunity within it, I promise you, you'll get good grades. You'll get good grades because you're actually learning something. But if it's just for the grades, you'll memorize it, you'll chug it into your head. And I'm sure you all know this. We all know lots of smart people that are morons. Right? They got great SATs, they got great grades because they could cram it into their head, and then you can't carry on a conversation with them at a party. Right? We don't have to worry about that. Learn. Have knowledge. Not just information. I have knowledge. Because knowledge that has experience is wisdom. And do you want to make money? How much do you want to make? How are you going to make it? Ask yourself that question. And then finally, what are some of the emotional areas where I'm blocked? Or what are some of the lies I've come to believe? This is the deepest conversation that you can have with friends. Because I promise you, when you come to identify these things, when you have that friend that you trust, and you can talk about this stuff, you'll probably have them turn around and go, man, you too? This is the most beautiful sentence a friend can say to another friend. You too? In other words, I'm not alone. Someone understands me. Set up those strategies. We are here to help you hone the person you are going to become. And I can't wait for it. I can't wait to help you with this. I long to help you with this. I hunger to help you with this. Why? Because that's my gift. God gave me the gift to teach and to be there. And I can't wait to exercise the gifts of God to allow yours to explode in awesomeness and to be there for you when you fall. God bless you guys. Have a great night.